I need to talk to you about a sponsor for today's video, and that is MyBookie. Unless you've been living under a rock, you know that the NFL is back and the NBA playoffs are in full swing, which can only mean one thing. It's winning season at MyBookie. I don't know about you guys, but for me, a game is 10 times more exciting when I'm putting money on it. Sometimes I have a gut feeling about a matchup, or sometimes I'm just betting on my own team because they're my own team. Go Eagles. Regardless, whether you've been betting for years or you're ready to play for the first time, MyBookie is your best bet this season. With the biggest online selection of bets and props, they've made it simple to win and easy to withdraw your cash. Right now, they've got a $100,000 super contest for only a $10 entry fee, and they're giving away $5,000 in cash prizes every 4 weeks. You would be crazy not to invest your sports knowledge and that kind of potential return on your investment. $10 to win thousands? Sign me up. You can too at MyBookie. Just use the promo code C4 to claim your 100% deposit match all the way up to $1,000. That means if you put $100 in, they'll give you another $100, and it's an easy way to jumpstart your bankroll. NFL, NBA, and MLB, they've got it all on tap, and it's never too late to get started on your winning season exclusively at MyBookie. All right, grades. Eagles lost. It was a good game, though, honestly. In a losing effort, at least it wasn't like your typical boring Eagles game. There was ups and downs. We were able to move the ball on offense, and it was against a team that, even if Philly was full strength, it was going to be a tough matchup. And, I mean, first of all, we got to get out of the way. The refs were horrific on both sides of the ball. On Pittsburgh's first drive, I don't necessarily think they get a touchdown. They get a horrible pass interference call on Darius Slay. Pretty much puts the ball right in the goal line anyways, and they're able to punch it in. And there was a couple bad plays. A push-off for Chase Claypool in the fourth quarter is also pretty bad. But on my books, I had it 4-3 bad calls for the Eagles. But it was, I'm not going to use that as an excuse. Refs were really, really bad. It's Ron Torbert. So if you're one of those person that likes to look ahead and like look at the schedule and see what refs are reffing each game, you got Torbert. Good luck. That guy is an absolute nightmare of a referee. It was bad, man. Like there was one, too, where like, they said Philly picked off the ball, and it clearly, like, rolled twice on the turf, and then Nate Gary picked it up. They were bad, man. They were bad, and from now on, that ref's on my shit list. If that, I assume if you're a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, probably the same. You see Torbert in there, you're like, oh, great, it's got to be one of them games. But Philly falls 38-29 in a game where more good than bad for Philadelphia. Our offense looks, energetic. We had a little bit of juice. Carson Wentz had 258 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. Both picks weren't really on Wentz. I don't want to. The last thing I want to come off as is that, there's a perception in this Philadelphia Eagle fan base that you're a Wentz defender. People will always go to great lengths to defend Carson Wentz. But I mean, when you look at it, the first interception, there was like a 50-50. It was right on the line of getting like a pick play called against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Zach Ertz got popped off his route. That's where Wentz was going, and then he wasn't there. Simply Zach Ertz was not there because he got popped off the route. Now the question comes, it literally looks like it was between that 5 and 6 yard mark. It was a close call, but it's like one of those things where if you just look at the play and look at the box score, you're like, wow, that's a terrible play from Carson Wentz. But there was some validity. You're like, could have been a penalty, and that wouldn't have been. But we'll chalk that up to a bad throw. And then the second interception was at the end of the game, 4th and 20. Pretty much a punt. But generally, Wentz played pretty well. I didn't really see a whole lot of misses. And this game was a little bit of everything of Carson Wentz that we've got the last couple of years. Where it's like, all right, few wow plays, few plays that he held on the ball way too long and ate a sack, whereas, would have been better field position. If I'm going to view it and be fair, I will still say that first interception it wasn't a good throw either. Could have been a penalty, but also probably don't go there. It was double coverage, and it was not a particularly good throw. But if Carson Wentz can show up for the rest of the season, we absolutely can suck the least in the NFC East to find a way to get in the playoffs. And hopefully, this is a game that I think Darius Slay and Lane Johnson exited for the Philadelphia Eagles, but hopefully we can find a way to get some sort of health going on and peak at the right time and not have long-term injuries. Like it looks at Dallas, like their offensive line, these guys are going on season ending. They're not coming back. Hopefully with Philly, we at least have that hope with like Alshon Jeffrey, Deshaun Jackson, Lane Johnson, even Jason Peterson moving him back into guard. We could still get stronger, I suppose. Jalen Reagor will come back. Let's be wishful. This is There's no such thing as a bad loss. This is a very frustrating game, and I'm going to rip a man very, very badly at the end of this video because I have a little bit of rant I need to get out. But for the Philadelphia Eagles, where everything's been bad, at least there was some good in this game, and I think we truly can build upon this. But it doesn't get much easier. I mean, who do we got next week, right? We got Baltimore next week. Yikes. But then we got the Giants and Cowboys. So I feel like Philly can absolutely go 2-1 over these next 3 weeks to still be first place in the NFC East. But we need that Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz needs to play like he did today. Carson Wentz had a solid game. A solid to good game. And that's really all you need. That's really all you need. So I'm going to give Carson Wentz, in terms of a player grade, I'll give him a strong B. A strong B. Still has 2 interceptions. It doesn't look great if you're just looking at the box score. But if you watch that game, and there was like one play too, that Bud Dupree had a shot at him, and Carson Wentz like ducked under it. Toki stole. Bud Dupree literally was tackling a ghost there. So like there was more vintage Wentz than not. He did have a throw in the first quarter, I think, to John Hightower down deep. They just missed it. And it's one of those things where it's just like, you know, John Hightower's fast. He's like mid 4.4 fast. But if that's Jalen Reagor, if that's Deshaun Jackson, do they make that catch? I don't know. But still, it was the best game Carson Wentz has had all year. I'll give him a B. A solid B. Looking at the run game, Miles Sanders had 11 rushes for 80 yards and 2 touchdowns. I would argue did not keep that balance. It was one of those things, as I watched the game, I want them to throw the ball more because Travis Fulgham was having a breakout. I just wanted to keep feeding him. But in reality, 11 rushes for a guy, Miles Sanders, that averaged 7.3 yards per carry. Obviously, it was inflated because he did have a huge 70-some yard touchdown run, which was awesome. Finally, an explosive play from the Philadelphia Eagles offense. But I would still argue Miles Sanders is too good of a player on an offense that's lacking pure talent to only get the ball 11 times. I get it. Pittsburgh has a great front. But honestly, Miles Sanders, like, it'd be like, all right, you might get TFL'd once, and then Miles Sanders would get 5-6 yards. You know, it's one of those things where you're always going to have these games as long as you have a head coach as part of that Andy Reid coaching tree. At the end of the day, backs against the wall, they're going to throw the football. They're not going to rely on the strength of their team. They're not going to rely on the strongest skill position player on their team. They're going to just, hey, let's throw it, man. Let's turn into a Big 12 offense. And it is what it is. But Miles Sanders had a very, very good game. Did have a drop, though. I think it was the second half. Could have got a first down or could have made it more manageable to convert. But generally, I'll give Miles Sanders, he'll get an A. He was outstanding today. 2 touchdowns. I love it. Wide receivers. Well, we'll get to Greg Ward had a touchdown. I like Greg Ward. Definitely has carved out a role here to be I think, long-term slot wide receiver option for the Philadelphia Eagles. I think we saw Arcega-Whiteside had a 37-yard catch right at the end of the first half. Time ran out. It's one of those plays when you look back, John Hightower made a catch before that and didn't get out of bounds, so Philly had to burn a timeout. That was just, it's inexperience. It was inexperience right there because if Hightower got out of bounds, we would have had that timeout. We would be able to burn it. Call a field goal attempt, which still wouldn't have mattered because he put Nate fucking Gary on single-man coverage against Chase Claypool. I still can't believe that. Like, Travis Fulgham had 10 catches, 152 yards, and a touchdown. Someone tweeted at me. I said, when was the last time the Eagles had a 100-yard receiver? Only guy I could even think of, and I got this response, was Deshaun Jackson week 1 last year against Washington. Or I don't know what he had exactly, but he had 2 huge touchdown catches. And Fulgham with 152 yards, I thought win, lose, or draw. Because you gotta say draw when you're talking about the Philadelphia Eagles. I thought win, lose, or draw. I was going to this whole video was going to be me saying, Travis Fulgham is an awesome story. He was exceptional today. This wasn't just picking on corners. He was winning against everyone. I think at the end of the game, Pittsburgh started to put Joe Hayden on him. Gator bias, love Joe Hayden. But even Fulgham was still getting his, right? So it was one of those things where, like, I'm not going to say, pump the brakes. We might not have a star player. But we definitely, if I'm seeing 10 catches, 152 yards, and a touchdown with Fulgham, and then you look at someone like Arcega-Whiteside, where Fulgham has more stats than Arcega-Whiteside has in his entire NFL career, I think we can at least say that Fulgham looks like he's going to be a very nice weapon for the Philadelphia Eagles going forward. This can be the kind of breakout game, the kind of chemistry between a quarterback and a wide receiver that Carson Wentz does not have with any one of his wide receivers right now in this squad that could help transform this offense because now there's a reliable set of hands that can line up on the outside. I thought for sure 90% of this video was going to be me talking about how much I love Travis Fulgham, how much like it was good. Like it wasn't like he had 10 catches. On the other side of the ball, Chase Claypool, Canadian, huge fan of Chase Claypool. But let's be honest, his touchdowns were just he beat his guy at the line of scrimmage and was wide open. Fulgham was making like tough contesting. It wasn't coming as easy to Fulgham as it was Claypool, because Claypool is in a different tier of athletic ability. But what I'm saying is, it's not like you're looking at this box score for Fulham, you're seeing 10, you don't see the catch, you see 152 yards and a touchdown. You're like, well, did he have like a 70, 80-yard fluke touchdown run that kind of inflates that? No, those are 150 tough-ass yards. They're ridiculous catches. I don't know how many of those 10 catches came on third down to move the chains. That was an exceptional performance. And still, I'm going to give, just because of him, these receivers are getting an A+. Best receiving performance I've seen from the Philadelphia Eagles literally maybe since that Redskin game, week 1 of last year, while I was watching the game on a generator because we got hit by a hurricane. I will never forget that game, actually. But I can't because Nate Gary, and that's not even his fault. Jim Schwartz put Nate Gary, man coverage, no one behind him, no one directly behind him. People are saying it may have been something with Roddy McLeod getting a little bit greedy. Absolutely not. Jim Schwartz put our worst starting caliber player on a guy that has been destroying us all game long. 6'4", legit 4.4 speed, elite athlete, Nate Gary. And he literally, you saw Ben Roethlisberger he pointed, and just, whoop, touchdown. Game over. The game was over at that point. I could not believe that. But I also can believe it. Like, how do you not call a timeout? Like, if that wasn't what if there's a miscommunication, that's what a lot of people on Eagles Twitter right now is like, there had to be a miscommunication. If there's that bad of a miscommunication, Jim Schwartz needs to burn a timeout. Jim Schwartz absolutely has to say, that's not what we need. Putting our worst linebacker against easily the most dangerous player on the Pittsburgh Steelers today. How is that a design? Like, how is that a miscommunication? The only way I can think of it is that he trusted him. The only way that I think this whole thing happened is that Claypool was in that, if you paid attention at the combine, people were talking about Claypool maybe working out with the tight ends, maybe being a tight end. I guarantee you this was by design. To have Gary line up in front of Claypool, because in Jim Schwartz's mind, he's like, well, Gary, athletic safety, converted to linebacker, should be able to cover the tight end straight up. Abso-fucking-lutely not. I can't believe that. I simply cannot believe that. And I will still be a confused and frustrated fan because I honestly cannot suggest an alternate solution to, like, fire Jim Schwartz and bring this guy in as our DC, or there's this guy on the Eagles defensive coaching staff that absolutely could do a better job running this defense. I don't have that answer, and I haven't had that answer. I always just default to, hey, back that Brinks truck up. There's no salary cap, I don't think, for coaches, and get Brent Venables to come up from Clemson. That's the only way I have. But it's indefensible. It's inexcusable. It's a fireable offense. You essentially cost this team the game by having Nate Gary. And, we want to throw hate on Nate Gary. He's bad. Nate Gary absolutely, at best, is an average depth linebacker. That play wasn't Nate Gary's fault. What the fuck is Nate Gary supposed to do? Bobby Wagner, maybe Bobby Wagner, and that's maybe, is the only guy that could probably get put in that situation and might have a chance. It's still an absolute overwhelming advantage for the Pittsburgh Steelers offense to just pick on that matchup. That's all I can talk about. That's all I can think about. That's going to bug me days and days and days. I look at this game. Pittsburgh probably was the better team. Probably. I think they're maybe actually, with how well Philly moved the ball, I think Pittsburgh's for being 4-0. That's like, they are closer. That 4-0 rating is like, I feel like closer to like the Bears 4 wins than it is like, the Seattle Seahawks or something like that. Like, Pittsburgh's not a particularly dominant 4-0 team. Like, I'm saying this to someone that, like, as a neutral, when I watch Steelers, I kind of like the Steelers. I like, they got Chase Claypool, dominant Canadian. I'm always about that. I love James Conner. I've been a big Ben fan for a while. Offensive line's well. TJ Watt's sweet. Joe Hayden. I like the Steelers. A little overrated. Like, they're not that good, but they probably were the better team today. But Philadelphia came in as the underdogs, and they had a chance. And the offense, and Carson Wentz, and Fulham, and Miles Sanders getting the explosive plays, and Jordan Mailata coming in, and really until the final drive where it was just garbage time. Then no sacks, was almost pitching a shutout against Bud Dupree, who's looked amazing through the first 3 games. All this positives on offense, and we had some strong plays on defense here and there, is just negated because Jim Schwartz put Nate Gary in man coverage against Chase Claypool, who had 3 touchdowns already in the game with no safety help. Like, it's a fireable offense, but but I feel like as someone that says that, I should have, like, you fire him, and then you do this. Like, here's the steps to kind of fix this. Here's the steps to kind of overreact to this game, but not really overreact, because that's absolutely fucking just throwing the game at that point. That is, Nate Gary, we're going to finish with this, because I don't know how to properly finish this. Nate Gary being in man coverage against Chase Claypool in that situation is the exact same as Doug Peterson punting it to tie against the Cincinnati Bengals. Both situations, you just basically said, I don't fucking care. I don't want to win the game. That's what we just saw. So, Eagle fans, Steeler fans, I think we all could agree refs were bad. How do you guys feel about this game? Let me know in the comment section below. I did it all right with my bets. I did throw $5 on Philly because they're almost 4-point money line. Wasn't, no sweat off my back. It was close. I got hit. I only bet on I got Carolina. How was Carolina an underdog against Atlanta? So I hope everyone else, even if your team lost, you bet well. You bet well, and you got some money here today. But that does for me. I'll see you guys back here tomorrow. Fuck Nate Gary, but bigger. Fuck Jim Schwartz. Piece of shit. Fuck you.